Toronto mornings in January have a way of feeling suspended in time. The city moves slower under snow, as if even the noise knows it should be respectful. I stood in my kitchen, hands wrapped around a warm mug, watching white flakes drift past the window like they had nowhere else to be. My phone buzzed on the counter. Glenn. My younger brother's name sat there longer than it should have. We hadn't spoken in 3 weeks, not since our last argument at Maple Grove Care Center, where our mother now lived. I hesitated before answering. Douglas, he said, his voice low, controlled. Too controlled. I have some difficult news. My body reacted before my mind did. My shoulders stiffened. My chest tightened. What happened? I asked. There was a pause, just long enough to feel rehearsed. Mom passed away last night. Peacefully. In her sleep. The mug slipped from my hand. Coffee splashed across the floor as ceramic shattered, the sound sharp and final in the quiet kitchen. What? My voice cracked. No, that can't be right. I was going to see her today. The funeral is Friday, Glenn continued, cutting me off. His tone shifted, flattening into something clinical. I've already made the arrangements. I leaned against the counter, dizzy. Friday. 3 days away. Oh, he added casually, like he was remembering a minor detail. About Mom's estate, the will is very clear. My stomach dropped. Everything goes to me. The house. The Muskoka cottage. Her investments. All of it. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. You get nothing, he finished. And don't even think about contesting it. Click. The line went dead. I stood there staring at my phone, my reflection faintly visible in the dark screen. 64 years old. Retired. Widowed. And somehow, in less than 30 seconds, I had lost my mother, and apparently, my brother too. But grief wasn't what hit first. It was confusion. Then anger. Then something colder. Suspicion. My name is Douglas Harrison. I spent 40 years as a civil engineer, designing roads, bridges, and public infrastructure across Ontario. I believed in systems. In order. In the idea that if you followed the rules, things held together. Family, I believed, worked the same way. My wife Catherine used to tease me about that. You think people are blueprints, she'd say. Life doesn't care about symmetry. She died 3 years ago. Cancer doesn't care about symmetry either. After she was gone, my mother became my anchor. Helen Harrison, retired school teacher, lifelong reader, sharp as a blade even into her 80s. She helped me survive grief without drowning in it. Glenn and I grew up close. Hockey in the driveway. Shared bedrooms. Late-night talks about dreams we thought would never fade. But adulthood changes people. Glenn chased success like it owed him something. Real estate deals. Big promises. Bigger risks. On the surface, he looked fine. Nice house, nice car, smiling family. Underneath? Cracks. I'd noticed them. So had Mom. 9 months earlier, Glenn had convinced her to sign over power of attorney. Just in case, he said. Bills, appointments, paperwork. I'll handle it. Mom hesitated. She valued independence like oxygen. But Glenn was persuasive. And he was her baby boy. Within weeks, everything changed. Mom was suddenly severely demented. Moved into a nursing home. Heavily medicated. Barely responsive. I questioned it. So did my gut. But doctors wear authority like armor, and Glenn wore concern like a costume. I visited 3 times a week anyway. Even when she didn't know my name. Even when she stared through me like I was furniture. I held her hand. I talked. I stayed. Glenn visited when it was convenient. Now, standing alone in my kitchen, Glenn's words replayed over and over. Don't contest the will. That wasn't grief talking. That was fear. I picked up my phone and dialed Maple Grove Care Center. I'm calling about my mother, Helen Harrison, I said. I was told she passed away last night. There was a pause. I'm sorry, sir, the nurse replied carefully. But I don't have any record of that. Let me check. My heart started pounding. A minute passed. Then another. Sir, she said, your mother is alive. She's eating breakfast right now. The room spun. Please, I said quietly, don't tell anyone I called. Especially not my brother. I hung up. And for the first time that morning, I was certain of one thing. My brother had lied. And whatever he was planning had already gone too far that I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table long after the snow stopped falling, staring at nothing, replaying Glenn's voice in my head. The will is very clear. Don't contest it. A man doesn't say things like that unless he's afraid of what might be found. At 6:30 a.m., I called my daughter. Emma answered on the third ring. Dad? It's barely 7 there. What's wrong? Your uncle told me Grandma died, I said. She hasn't. Silence. Then, what? She's alive, Emma. He lied. And I think he's stealing from her. Her breath caught. Dad, that's elder abuse. That's a crime. I know. What are you going to do? I stared at the frost-covered window. I'm going to find the truth. The lawyer. By mid-morning, I was sitting in a glass-walled office downtown across from Robert Chen, a lawyer I'd worked with years ago. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back slowly. Douglas, he said, this isn't just a family dispute. If your brother is misusing power of attorney, lying about your mother's condition, or diverting assets, this could involve criminal charges. But we need proof, I said. Exactly. Bank records. Medical records. Witnesses. And if he's already emptied accounts? Robert's jaw tightened. Then time matters. The investigator. That afternoon, Sarah Mitchell knocked on my door. Mid-40s. Sharp eyes. Calm voice. The kind of person who notices everything and forgets nothing. How long has Glenn had POA? She asked, opening her notebook. 9 months. And before that? My mother was independent. Volunteering. Playing bridge twice a week. Perfectly lucid. Sarah nodded slowly. Sudden dementia is rare. Medication-induced cognitive decline, however, isn't. I swallowed. Give me 48 hours, she said. I'll follow the money. Maple Grove. That evening, I drove to Maple Grove unannounced. Mom was in her chair by the window, hands folded in her lap. She looked smaller than I remembered. Hi, Mom, I said softly. Her eyes lifted to me, slow, distant. No recognition. Still, Saturday. I talked about Emma. About volunteering. About nothing at all. Her hand rested in mine, warm, steady. Too steady. For just a second, her fingers squeezed back. I froze. Mom? I whispered. Her lips parted, then the door opened. A nurse stepped in. The moment vanished. The first proof. The next morning, Sarah called. Douglas, she said, you need to sit down. I was already seated. Your brother has transferred approximately $280,000 from your mother's accounts into his own over the last 8 months. My stomach dropped. He sold her Muskoka cottage to a numbered company. I'm still tracing ownership, but I strongly suspect it leads back to him. I closed my eyes. And the doctor, she continued. Dr. James Whitmore? Yes. The line went dead. I stood frozen in the snow, heart pounding. Mom couldn't do that. Could she? Unless. He and your brother have been friends since university. 30 years. My blood ran cold. This isn't just theft, Sarah said quietly. This is orchestration. The disappearance. That afternoon, I went back to Maple Grove. Mom's room was empty. Where's my mother? I demanded. Oh, the nurse said casually. Your brother took her out for a drive. When? About an hour ago. Panic surged through me. I ran to the parking lot. Glenn's Mercedes was gone. I called him. Once. Twice. 5 times. Nothing. 3 hours later, they returned. Mom looked exhausted. Pale. Confused. Glenn barely acknowledged me. I thought you said Mom died, I said. He laughed. False alarm. I stepped closer. What are you doing to her? His smile vanished. I'm her power of attorney, he said coldly. Back off. The call. I was leaving when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello. Silence. Then a whisper. Douglas. My heart stopped. Yes. It's me. Who? Your mother. I checked the screen. Blocked number. Listen carefully, she whispered. Come to my room tonight. After 10. Don't tell anyone. The woman who was never lost. I sat in my car across the street from Maple Grove Care Center, watching the building like it might blink or breathe. It was 9:58 p.m. The parking lot was nearly empty. A single security light flickered near the side entrance. Glenn's black Mercedes was nowhere in sight. My hands shook as I turned off the engine. This is either madness, I thought, or the most important moment of my life. I waited 2 more minutes. Then I stepped into the cold. The midnight visit. The side door opened with my key code. The hallway smelled faintly of disinfectant and something stale, like time itself had been sitting there too long. I walked slowly, listening for footsteps. Mom's door was closed. I knocked once. Come in, a clear voice said. Not weak. Not confused. Clear. I pushed the door open. My mother was sitting upright in bed, the lamp beside her casting a soft glow across the room. Her hair was neatly brushed. Her eyes, those sharp brown eyes, were focused. Alive. Present. Close the door, Douglas, she said. My knees nearly gave out. The truth. I shut the door and leaned against it, struggling to breathe. Mom, what is happening? She smiled. Not a frail smile. The smile of the woman who raised 2 stubborn boys and survived decades of classrooms full of unruly students. I was wondering how long it would take you, she said gently. You're not sick. I'm 85, she replied. I get tired. I forget where I put my glasses. But no, sweetheart, I'm not demented. The room tilted. But the doctors. One doctor, she corrected. And he was very cooperative. I sat heavily in the chair beside her bed. I pretended, she said. Every blank stare. Every confused word. Every moment you thought I was gone. Why? My voice broke. She reached for my hand. To find out who loved me when I had nothing to give. The test. When Glenn suggested power of attorney, she continued, I saw an opportunity. She had already consulted her own lawyer. Moved most of her assets into an irrevocable trust. Left only enough accessible to observe behavior. I needed to know, she said, eyes glistening, who would show up when I wasn't useful anymore. My throat tightened. And you did, she whispered. 3 times a week. You talked to me. You held my hand. Even when I pretended not to know your name. Tears blurred my vision. And Glenn? I asked. Her expression hardened. He failed. The evidence. She reached beneath her pillow and pulled out a small digital recorder. I've recorded everything, she said calmly. Every threat. Every demand. Every time he tried to rush me into signing papers. She told me about the money. The cottage. The lies. The funeral, she said quietly. He told me he was planning it. My blood ran cold. He said I'd have an accident soon, she added. That I should sign everything first. I clenched my fists. We need to call the police. Not yet, she said. We need him caught cleanly. No doubt. No escape. The poison. 2 nights later, Glenn returned. We watched from the hidden camera. He smiled. He whispered. He played the caring son. Then he produced a syringe. My stomach turned. He told her it was medication. It wasn't. Later testing would confirm it was enough sedative to stop her breathing. She pretended to take it. Palmed the pills. Tomorrow, Glenn said softly, stroking her hair. You'll finally be at peace. The plan. Friday morning. The funeral. The perfect stage. Robert coordinated with police. Hidden cameras stayed rolling. Mom perfected her performance. And Glenn believed he'd won. The funeral for a living woman. Friday arrived wrapped in silence. The kind of silence that comes before something breaks. By noon, my phone hadn't stopped buzzing. Cousins. Old friends. Former colleagues of my mother. Everyone offering condolences. Everyone believing the same lie. I'm so sorry for your loss. She was such a wonderful woman. I said thank you. I played my part. Because justice sometimes requires patience. The funeral home. Thornhill Funeral Home was full. Glenn hadn't spared a single detail. White lilies lined the aisle. A large framed photo of Mom, taken years ago, smiling and strong, stood at the front beside a closed casket. Closed. Because there was no body inside. Emma sat beside me, her hand gripping mine. You okay, Dad? She whispered. No, I said. But I will be. Across the aisle, Glenn sat with Patricia and the kids. He wore a black suit, eyes red, expression rehearsed to perfection. At exactly 2 p.m., he stood. The speech. We are gathered today, Glenn began, his voice trembling, to celebrate the life of my mother, Helen Margaret Harrison. The room listened. She was a teacher, a mentor, a woman who gave everything to her family. I watched his hands. Steady. Too steady. In her final months, he continued, she trusted me to care for her. To manage her affairs. To protect her interests. Patricia squeezed his arm. She told me she wanted me to have her home. Her cottage. Everything she worked for. That was when I stood. Every head turned. Interesting, I said loudly. Because Mom is very particular about honesty. Glenn froze. Douglas, he hissed, sit down. Where's her body? I asked. Gasps rippled through the room. She's being cremated, he snapped. I called the crematorium, I said. They don't have her. Patricia stood. Glenn. The doors at the back opened. The reveal. She walked in slowly, using a walker. But her back was straight. Her eyes sharp. Alive. The room erupted. People stood. Someone screamed. Others cried openly. My mother walked down the aisle toward her own funeral. 2 police officers followed behind her. She stopped in front of Glenn. Hello, son, she said calmly. I'm not dead. Glenn staggered backward. This isn't real, he stammered. She's confused. I've been recording everything, Mom said. For 8 months. She turned to the crowd. I apologize for deceiving you, she said. But I needed the truth. An officer stepped forward. Glenn Harrison, he said, you are under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, theft, and attempted financial exploitation. Glenn ran. He made it 3 steps. Then he was on the floor, what remains after the truth. The room was still screaming when Glenn was dragged away. His children were crying. Patricia stood frozen, her hand covering her mouth, eyes wide with disbelief. Relatives whispered, argued, prayed. And in the center of it all stood my mother, alive, dignified, unbroken. She didn't look victorious. She looked tired. After the arrest. The legal process moved slowly, but it moved forward. Glenn tried to fight it. He claimed Mom was incompetent. That he was only helping. That everything he did was for her benefit. But lies collapse under light. The evidence was overwhelming. Video footage of him forcing documents in front of her. Audio recordings of threats and manipulation. Bank records showing the stolen $280,000. Medical proof that sedatives were prescribed without medical necessity. Dr. Whitmore testified after being granted immunity. He lost his medical license. His career ended the moment truth entered the room. The sentence. Glenn pleaded guilty. 5 years in prison. Full repayment of stolen funds. Permanent loss of his real estate license. Patricia filed for divorce. She got full custody of the kids. Emma and I stayed involved, not because we had to, but because they were innocent. They had lost a father long before the arrest. Mom's new life. Mom sold the house. The memories were too heavy there. She moved into a small condo near me. We had dinner twice a week. Sometimes 3. She volunteered at an elder abuse prevention center, sharing her story with people who needed to hear it most. Together, we created the Helen Harrison Elder Protection Fund, using part of the recovered money to help seniors facing financial exploitation. She said it was the only way to turn betrayal into purpose. 1 year later, snow fell again over Toronto. We sat on my back porch, wrapped in blankets, mugs warm in our hands. "Do you regret it?" I asked. She was quiet for a long time. "I regret that it was necessary," she said. "But, no. I don't regret knowing the truth." She looked at me. "You loved me when I had nothing to offer. That mattered more than money." I swallowed hard. "And Glenn?" I asked. She sighed. "If he had asked," she said softly, "I would have helped him. Not blindly. But honestly." She shook her head. "He chose greed. And greed always charges interest." The lesson. Family is not blood. It's behavior. It's showing up when there's nothing to gain. It's protecting the vulnerable, even when it hurts. It's choosing integrity when silence would be easier. Glenn made his choices. I made mine. And my mother. She taught me the greatest lesson of all. Dignity matters more than dollars. Love shows up. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is pretend to be weak just long enough to reveal who truly is.